everyone. Welcome to another conversation related to I didn't know that was a job. So today we have the pleasure of being here with Harshita Nadimpalli, who happens to be one of our mentors in the Girl Security Mentorship Program, and also just an awesome person who has done some awesome things. So Harshita works at the intersection of artificial intelligence, AI, data, open source intelligence, and defense. She does work, has worked at those intersections. So she's done some fascinating things, and we're going to talk with her today. Hi, Harshita.
Hey, Joe. So to just, kick off and talk about what I do, I'm currently working as a technical project manager at a startup. It's a defense startup. But that's kind of a new role for me. So for most of today, I'll probably talk about my previous job, which was also at an open source and real-time information startup.
Okay. I am intrigued. So talk to us about your path to doing this type of work.
Yeah, so I actually started as a regional analyst after I graduated college at this startup, and I had no exposure to tech or the startup world and not really any interest in that sector. I thought I would go like a very traditional government job route after graduating. But I ended up at this job and I quickly joined the research and development team after I started as a regional analyst because they had formed a new team and the opportunity came up. And I had had some background in my college internships in executive protection and threats. So I thought I could make an impact in improving the product and what they were trying to do in that field. So I didn't have, again, any technical background in AI, and I learned most of that on the job and through online courses I signed up for along the way. So I think that's one of the things I've loved working about in the startup space is you have an opportunity to kind of chart your own course and develop your career and skills if you're proactive in areas that you might not have known about at all before.
For sure. So it sounds like you had an opportunity that was presented and you just found your way to fit in and learn about it as you went along, which is great. So, for those who don't know, including myself, what is research and development in this context of what you've done?
Yeah, so at our startup, it was a lot of product building. Like it was researching, okay, if we're trying to develop something, what are the data sources we have? What else is out there that we maybe don't have? Is that something that we can incorporate and make the product better? So it's a lot of just researching into like different ways to improve the product and experiment. It's very experimental because not everything might work out. But yeah, that's kind of like the role within the company.
And when you say product, are you talking about like the tool that you all use to provide your services?
Exactly. So for ours, it was like a software tool that you had to log into. So we were really just trying to see, how can we improve that and find ways to make it, expand the geographic diversity of the product and just like the number of data sources that we had. I think research and development within startups is even more of a very like open-ended role because there were many people on my team within R&D that had different areas of focus and expertise. Like somebody was a cyber expert, I was more of a threats expert. So there are different areas of focus that you can have within that.
Okay. So you said you didn't know much about tech when you got into this space and you taught yourself a lot. So what were some of the struggles that you had? What were some of the challenges you had to overcome as you learned as you went along?
Yeah, I think one of the big things in the startup space is there isn't always a clear-cut career path compared to some other lines of work like the military. So a lot of it is just experimenting and finding ways to craft your own path within the startup. And that comes with a lot of uncertainty, of course, and it's not really something that you're taught in college, right? It's not like a clear upwards trajectory. Like you start in this job and then there's just like, promotions going upwards. It's a lot more, I felt like it was more of a meandering path where I tried a lot of different teams and tried to find like where my best fit was and what parts of different teams I liked and didn't like. So I tried like the customer success team. Again, I started as a regional analyst. And then I really liked the R&D team on the product side. So it was a lot of just trying different things. And I think that is kind of a struggle as a young professional because you don't necessarily know how to navigate that coming out of college. And then, later on, as you go through your career, you become more confident in knowing what you're looking for and what you bring to the table. But you don't always know that right off the bat when you start. So that has kind of come with time and figuring out where I fit.
Okay. So, who is this type of job good for? So, you mentioned that your teammates had different expertise and they had different backgrounds. You yourself did. And, I think when a lot of people think of national security work or homeland security work, they don't think of startups at all. So, if you're talking to someone who's thinking about what they want to do in this space, who would you say this is a good type of job for?
Yeah, and I had all types of different colleagues with different backgrounds. So I had colleagues who came from the journalism world, people who came from more of the traditional like intel analysis and regional analysis world. So I think the characteristics that everybody shared is that they were very proactive and self-starting because again, you have to kind of find and make your own opportunities in this space. And there's not a straightforward path. So it's your job to kind of make connections across the company and reach out and find, how you can contribute to different projects. And people won't necessarily approach you for those, but it's on you to kind of take those on yourself. And then I think because in a lot of startups, it's very small. So you're working across different teams. So the communication is really important. I think that's like a really important skill. So if you enjoy that, especially with really different groups of people, I think this is a great space for you. And then I think the final thing is probably just people who are willing to find like scrappy solutions to problems. Even if it's not the most ideal thing, it's like, we have really limited resources in startups. So how do you just find a way to make it work still with that?
Okay, okay. So you talked about starting with customer success team and moving into research and development and doing different things. So can you talk to us a little bit about your pivoting, like how you pivoted, when you knew it was time to shift gears? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. And I think I've figured this out more now, looking back and reflecting, but I've found that every time I've pivoted, it's when I felt like I reached like a plateau with my learning. So that's kind of when I start thinking about, okay, I don't feel really challenged right now. So maybe I need to find a new role within the company or a new project, or take on more responsibilities to find like new areas to learn in. So I think now that I've kind of processed that and know that, I try to ask myself, if I'm working on something 6 months from now, if I'm still working on the same problem or project, do I think I'm going to have learned or grown in some way? And sometimes the answer has been yes, because I might be in the middle of figuring out like a really difficult problem. But if the answer is no, then that's kind of when I prompt myself. I'm like, okay, I need to make some kind of a change. Nobody else is really always going to be looking out for you because they don't know what you need or what you feel you need to learn. So for me, a lot of my pivots have been tied to this feeling of, okay, I'm not going to be learning as much as I want in the next 6 months if I keep on the same path. So that kind of forces me to step back and think about what new skills I can add, or maybe taking new classes on the side. I've done that a lot, like new certifications. With everything online, it's very easy to add that on your own. And then sometimes maybe in larger cases, it's a sign it's a time to move on from that team or role and find a new job. So
Okay, okay. So this is going to be my last question. I know we're getting close to our time mark. Um, for people who are not techie, can you reiterate that if you're interested in this space, you can be successful like you have?
absolutely. Yeah. Again, I had no technical skills. Everything I've learned has been, like self taking classes afterwards, not in college, but really like online courses that I've signed up for. But again, a lot of the roles within tech are not just the coding or programming aspect. Like that's one role within the company, but there's so many other roles in like business operations and product, which I love the product side. And a lot of those roles, the key skills, like the soft skills, are really, again, like the communication, the organization, like the process oriented mindset. So you can definitely succeed in a tech space without any of that background.
Okay. Thank you, Harshita. This has been such a pleasure. I've learned a lot. Thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for chatting, Joe.